Today on the Nerdy Gritty, Dez and Fox saw Captain Marvel. What's their take on all the hype?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep in both details. Wait,
No,
both.
there's only one
into
thing.
the details of pop culture. I was
In
going to
both
say
D and Tails.
I was going to say both details and pop culture, but no, it's one of the other.
Yeah, details of the pop culture.
That's what teaches me to try to improv.
That's Fox. I'm Dez.
I'm Fox. Also, I'm bad at things.
So last week we had a conversation about Rape Day. The words just feel uncomfortable in my
It's
mouth.
just a bad title.
Why?
It doesn't matter what
it's a schlock title.
It's a shock title.
Yeah.
But it's a bad title.
Yes.
Yeah,
In every
anyway.
way, it's bad.
Yeah, we had a discussion about this game.
And immediately afterwards, the next day, Steam released a statement on it, and we put that little blurb in there and released a podcast. But we said that today our intro was going to be us talking about Steam's.
Get back into it a little bit, just
Yeah.
real briefly here, though, because I don't want to talk about it a whole lot. I've got a lot to say about other things.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Steam released a statement essentially saying nothing.
Yeah, no, okay. So what they did was it's no longer available. It is not
Right.
on Steam. Was it actually on Steam, or was it supposed to be?
Pre-orders were on Steam.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
no longer available on Steam.
Correct.
And then their statement basically was, we've decided, so there was a petition, which is
Right.
not something we brought up.
Right.
It had something like 8,000 signatures or something like that. And I don't think they're
As far as petitions go, that's actually not a lot.
No. But it's also something that happened with the school shooting simulator. They had a big petition against it, and both of them have been taken off of Steam.
Right.
So I think that was a huge part of what led them hey, our community just doesn't seem to like this.
But that's not what they said.
But right. But their statement was kind of nonsensical.
It really was.
Not really in what it just didn't really gel with anything they've ever said.
They didn't mention the games, the Rape Day in
Yes.
particular at all. They said we have a moral standing, and sometimes we're gonna pull things that we don't like.
There was a specific line that said, "These things are on a case-by-case basis."
Right.
We're gonna have to, and that I appreciate.
Right.
I understand that makes sense. You can't just say rape is not okay, because video games, maybe some, I couldn't really tell you. I can't really think of any games off the top of my head, but movies have that rape is depicted, and it can be depicted in an exploitative way, or it can be depicted in a way that helps you understand the experience or tells you something it's part of the story, So you can't just say, especially if you're going to be like Steam, where they've said in the past, we want games to proliferate. We don't want to be games police,
Mm-hmm.
And so they couldn't just say, well, it has rape, so no. But it kind of seems like that's what happened.
Right.
So there doesn't really seem to be a concrete answer to why was this taken off the page.
If they had just said, we heard our fans' outcry and we have personal outcry as well, therefore this one game is one that we have taken into consideration individually and decided that this individual game will not be on Steam. If they had just straight up said that, cool.
I'd be fine with that. Yeah, people might be
100%
upset, but also that's I think in particular what you just said would be great, because it was not just, they hit the quota of how many people they needed to petition it, but also we didn't like it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. We
And
here
the
at
community
Valve
needs
didn't
to
like it.
understand, it's not censorship. Mm-hmm. Censorship is a legal term. It is the government stopping you from doing what you want.
Right.
Steam is not the government. As well as, like Steam has said before, you may not like it when these things happen. Deal with it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But if they had gone the other route and said, we think this is abhorrent, we think this is bad, but we made a statement saying we're going to let anything on here.
Right.
And so it's going to come, we put it to you, the fans, to, do what you want with that.
Yes.
And
that would have been fine too.
Yeah, I agree.
But instead, they went right down the middle and said basically nothing of any real substance.
Yes.
Which is frustrating.
Yeah, I think the only worst thing they could have done is to literally do nothing.
Right.
I think that
so.
would have been the
They
only
said
worst
something,
thing.
but nothing about the actual topic. And yeah, it's kind of a swing and a miss there for Steam.
Right.
But they did swing.
Yes, I'll give them. They swung, and I will say that from a moral standpoint, I'm happy with their choice.
It's fine. Yeah. I wouldn't have played the game either way, so it doesn't really matter
Right.
for me as far as practicality goes. But Yeah, they didn't seem to make a real great choice in what to say, but they said something, and it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I think that more companies should be willing to take a stance on things that are probably universally abhorred.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also, once you get into that subjective area, it's almost as if you have to go either of the two routes, where one route is Steam, where they're basically like, hey, even if you don't like it, it might be on Steam. You can say might, because we might take stuff down. That's fine. Or be like Epic Games or Ubisoft, where only these very specific games.
Right.
Epic, I actually really, okay, might get mad at me, but I kind of like Epic's store. I like their platform, just because it's very specific. You get free games every month with Epic. Oh. Yeah, you should pay attention to that because they're not bad games. They're fun games. But you just can't play anything, and you can't submit your own games, and that's why people like Steam is the Greenlight program and all that kind of stuff. But I also appreciate the very curated platform.
It's like Apple versus Android for me.
Essentially, yeah. And you have your preference, but both have their pros and cons.
Right.
I think we don't need to say any more.
Not much more other than at least they swung, but it was a swing and a miss.
Yep. There will be another opportunity for Steam to do better.
Yep. I'm sure.
There always will be.
Certain.
There are probably plenty of games on Steam right now in which they could do something better, but that's the risk.
Anyway, Fox, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, a whole lot, my friend.
Yeah, all right.
I warned you guys last year. Trigger warning for smugness. No, here's the thing. So, like I said last week, my wife, for my birthday last year, a couple months ago, she got me essentially got me a pass
Close my eyes here.
Portland, you can still hear me. Portland International Film Festival. It started last Thursday, 6 days ago now, as of recording this. And I've seen 3 movies. I got plans to see a lot more, but these 3 have been interesting. First one I saw was called Ash is Purest White.
Interesting.
Ash is Purest White. It's a Chinese movie about a woman who is girlfriend of basically an underground, like a mobster.
What time frame is this?
This is 2001 is when it starts.
Oh, okay.
It takes place over a couple decades. It ends in 2018, I think, which I'll get into that in a second. But it's about she goes to jail for him. She takes a fall, essentially, because guns are illegal, and she is caught with a gun that is his. She goes to jail, and he essentially ghosts her hardcore. That's sad. That's a lame way to put it, because that's like a dumb way. He essentially like leaves her behind.
Right.
Despite he only goes to jail for a year for the incident that took place, and he never comes and visits, all this stuff. And so the movie is mostly about her trying to find him and about basically trying to put her life back together, or just find her place.
And trying to shoot him with that gun she was got with.
No, actually. I actually appreciated that. It was a very quiet movie. It didn't have like, I'm going to get revenge. It was just like, this was my life. What do I do now? Because she's not somebody who wants to get revenge. She's not somebody who is now going to be queen of the underworld.
The average human being.
She's a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second movie I saw was called One Day. It was about, so there was a movie called Tully that came out last year.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was about housewife.
The pilot who landed the plane.
That's Sully. Although they should team up and make Stully.
Stully.
About a mom raising her kids on an airplane that's got to land on the Hudson River. Oh, I'd watch that. So this was similar. It was basically a slice of life, one day in the life of a mother raising her kids. It's a Hungarian movie. It was okay. The best thing I'll say, it was good. The best thing I'll say about it was that it communicated the experience of raising 3 kids essentially on your own because your husband is working for the vast majority of the day. Other things will happen. I don't want to quote unquote spoil, but in case you ever have the opportunity to see this, it communicated that experience very well, which is something that art should do a lot of times.
Right.
The problem for me was that there was no real not every movie needs one, but there was no real satisfying moment, like a climax or like a cathartic moment. Third movie I saw.
Well, hang on.
Oh, go ahead.
I do want to say that I'm surprised that Hungarians have not invaded local territories, Because when you're hungry, you gotta have turkey.
Yeah, but before you can cook it well, you need to acquire grease.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
But their financial situation right now. Anyway, third movie I saw. Third movie I saw.
It's the Ottoman Empire.
Yes, I know it's not a thing anymore. Third movie I saw last night was called Afghan Cycles. It's a documentary about the women's national cycling team of Afghanistan.
I've actually heard of this.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that just a movie about the Afghan women's cycling team.
Okay.
Like an article that I scrolled past.
Oh, great. Yeah, it was by far my favorite one so far.
Yeah?
Yes. Well, obviously it's a documentary and you kind of put it in a different category of fiction. But so this was really fun to watch. It was a really great movie, but it was also fun to watch, to be there because the director and a producer were there who have they're not from Portland, but they met in Portland and lived in Portland for a while. And so it was kind of like,
are they American filmmakers?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they are. I think it doesn't matter. But yes, they are not Afghanistan, or they're not Afghans.
Afghani, yeah.
It was a really great documentary. My favorite kind of documentary is one that has a very specific focus but tells you about the world in which it's placed. And this was the same exact thing, like very, very eye-opening to what it's like in Afghanistan, because it's a very recent documentary. I think it's a couple years old now.
Right.
But it's just about what it's like to live in Afghanistan, specifically as a woman, through the eyes of a woman who wants to just ride a bike. Literally just wants to ride a bike. They get rocks thrown at them. They get yelled at out of vans. That's
a documentary, right?
This is a documentary.
Real things
this is an actual thing. You do not see rocks get thrown at them. They talk about it though, but there is. It was crazy, and there was a Q&A after, and somebody asked them about it. But they had an interview with what his title was the district judge of that area of, I think, the region that some of the characters from the movie were in, of the Taliban. There was a district judge of the region from the Taliban interviewed in this movie, which was weird to watch.
Yeah, that's gotta be weird.
And it was really interesting. It was just a really quick part of the movie, and he's basically just spouting off propaganda, we have warned these women, we'll kill them, essentially, we will do the yes, and you're giving
face palming,
yeah. But that's our point of view. For them, this is a religious, I'm not trying to, please don't take this as I'm trying to justify what they're doing. It's abhorrent and so misled as far as a religious, even interpretation of Islam and all this. But it
makes sense.
It teaches us. It taught me, this is not just a thing they do because God told, this is what they think is the right way to live. These are infidels, and I am supposed to kill them. Yeah, so I've got more to talk about, but I've been doing
much less pretentious things. As far as movies go, my wife and I watched we watched The Man Who Knew Too Little out of the blue a while back. It's a Bill Murray movie from the 90s.
Right.
And we laughed very hard. Yeah. And it was hilarious. And we had a really good time. And because of that, my wife was just like, let's watch more Bill Murray movies. And so we watched Groundhog Day and Stripes as well.
Have you ever seen Groundhog Day?
Oh yeah, I've seen it over and over and over and over.
Nice. Had she?
No, that was her first time. Yeah. So we laughed a lot at that one too.
Funny freaking movie.
Stripes. So I saw it was 87 that it was made or something like that, maybe even earlier, 85. But it was rated R, and immediately I told Jackie, just so you know, 80s rated R is going to be needless boobs and needless cursing. And both were there in plethora.
Oh, yeah.
Literally the moment the movie started, I told my wife that, and they were both there in excess.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a little bit dumb. The movie was funny, but it was just that 80s time that was funny's not good enough. We need boobs and cursing,
They make fun of it in Airplane.
Yes.
Remember that moment where a naked woman just jumps out for no reason
at all?
You don't know why she's... But it's just because they do that in movies, especially at that time when it was
horror movies, comedy movies.
Yeah.
If it's rated R and it's excused,
especially around the time when PG-13 was either brand new or not a thing
yet. I'm also obviously progressing in Kingdom Hearts. I've been through the Monsters Inc. world. Been through Big Hero 6 World, which is super fun, but I'm now in the midst of Pirates of the Caribbean World. And once again, I don't get it. It is such a weird flex. Like, why are we here?
Yeah, especially because it, like... Okay, my question. What movie... Because, okay, I saw in the preview there's, like, At World's End, the third one.
Yes, that's what it is.
In the Davy...
It's At World's End. Of all the movies they could have pulled from, they pulled from, in my opinion,
probably the worst one.
Yes.
Because at least 4 and 5 are just simple adventure movies.
Right.
Not, like, tied into 2 others and have this super stupid epic plot.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's just baffling.
We're going to get to eventually when we do our Des Explains Kingdom Hearts to Fox.
Oh, I'm so pumped. I have been actively not paying attention to anything about it.
We're going to get to the Disney worlds that we go to meaningless in every single game. They really are. The plot of the Disney worlds are just entirely meaningless.
You're just there to fight Heartless.
You're there to fight Heartless, and because in between sections you get exposition.
Yeah.
The worlds are filler between the exposition, but they do it well because it's filler that you want. Yeah, that's mostly what I've been doing, as well as reading a bunch of graphic novels that you lent me, and those have been cool as well. Read one recently called The Divine and...
The Wicked and the Divine.
The Wicked and Divine, and I hated it.
Really?
But I read the entire thing.
Yeah. You've given me some that you're like, I got bored.
Yes,
you stopped reading
this was not that.
Yeah.
This was interesting, but I hated it because...
I think I'm right there with you, actually, with that one.
Yeah, I wanted to read the entire thing, but I hated it because it's essentially about a cult.
Yeah,
and
it's
how
weird.
These people are able to like emotionally manipulate teenagers into being their cult, and it comes from the perspective of a girl who is one of those emotionally manipulated teenagers.
Yes,
and she's actively talking about, my parents think I'm at college. I don't go to college anymore. I follow the divine. I follow the pantheon. I follow the pantheon, and I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yeah, stop
You're
doing
a
this.
19, 20-year-old girl. Go to school.
When you want the main character to stop doing everything they're doing, then it doesn't really keep you interested in what's going on.
And more than once, the character's like, I should be at school, but I'm not going to. And like, they double down on their stupidity.
Right.
Just really annoying to watch.
Yeah.
So, yep. All right. Well, that's what I got. You got anything else?
Oh, it's only been a million years.
No.
I mean, most of that was me. No. I've been playing Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Which is getting more and more fun as I play. Just because I'm getting into the swing of things and learning more, like... It's a game that doesn't teach you a lot of the mechanics unless you find, like, you know, this is the best way to plant these. You know, don't plant them next to this because then, you know, a lot of that stuff. I have been using the wiki a little bit, but not a whole lot, just to kind of learn a few things. Just what should I do next kind of stuff. It's real fun. I just want to play it all day long.
I'm gonna talk about one other nerd thing, but it's kind of out of the realm of our like actual nerd thing. I've been listening to a crap ton of musicals lately.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know why. Well, that's all we have to say, I think. Did I interrupt you?
No, I mean, there's a million things. There's some trailers that have come out recently.
Oh, man.
The new Aladdin trailer
looks real good. They flipped me on it, man.
They did. They got me good.
Okay. We talked a lot.
We have. It's what we do best.
It's time for us to get down to the nerdy gritty. But first, we just want to let you guys know that we edit out this first everything that you heard before this. If you're not one of our patrons, we do have an edited version that we put out.
It's a truncated version. So you'll hear a little tease about all the topics. Right. Maybe just a 30 seconds to a minute, but then a good chunk of what we say is not there.
So, I mean, we talked more about the movies Fox saw. I made a great joke about Turkey and Hungary that I don't know if that's going to make it to the final cut. It was, we laughed for an hour. I had to edit that
I had to cut out so much of this.
Yeah. But we talked about a bunch of different things. If you just love to hear our topic and the main thing we're talking about, none of that is edited.
Right.
We want to make sure we deliver that to you guys in full. But if you like just hearing Fox and I banter, if you like hearing what we do have for our $5 and $10 patrons the director's cut version of our podcasts, in which you get to hear everything we talk about. We usually cut 10 to 15 minutes in that area.
And that's always the one that goes up first, so you'll hear it before others do.
Yep, you'll hear it a little bit early before anyone else. So if that's something that you can do, we would really appreciate to go to patreon.com/dezandfox and support us over there at Patreon. We have a $1, $5, and $10 version. Even at the $1 version, you get a producer's credit on everything we do. So we really appreciate your help and everything that we do. If not, just sharing this with other people, commenting, rating us on whatever podcast listening thing that you're using really, really helps us. So thank you guys for all your support. We'll see you next time. No, that's it for our little plug here. We're gonna keep going.
We saw Captain Marvel.
Yep. Separately.
Separately. I went and saw it Friday. You saw it yesterday.
Yep. Which was Tuesday.
And we don't have a specific. I don't really have a specific topic about it that I want to talk about. Usually we'll use a recent thing to be like, well, let's use this to talk about this.
Well, I think what we're going to talk about is just kind of our review of it
a little bit.
But the review of it is going to be really heavily, it has to be tied into this whole political debate that's going on with
there's
it.
a kind of it's kind of hard to separate the movie from its surrounding hype /
the movie hasn't separated itself from a political.
No. They leaned into it.
They really did,
especially
yes.
Brie Larson herself talked about these things a lot. So I think it's fair to talk about.
Yes.
As far as I want to make sure that we are just reviewing the movie on its own merit as a movie.
Agreed.
But it's still fair to talk about these other things
yes.
and how that affects the movie, the watching experience.
Right.
But the movie itself doesn't have there's no interview with Brie Larson in it.
The movie.
Right. So we can't just say, well, because of that, the movie is bad.
While the movie is playing at the bottom, it doesn't have their production's political opinions or anything like that.
Yeah. So let's start just with the movie itself. Let's talk about what we thought about it. Let's go with the numerical value that I tend to not enjoy, but it gives you an idea. 1 to 10, what would you rate this movie?
I'd probably give it like a 7.75.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. It was exciting. It was great. The effects were great. It's forgettable as well. It was very samey. They didn't do anything exciting or special or fantastic to put it over the top for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was superhero movie, but it was a very good superhero movie.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 6.
Yeah.
Largely for the same reasons. It was fine. It was kind of what I expected. It was a lower tier Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I'd put it on par with Ant-Man.
That's exactly what I think.
Yeah,
Ant-Man,
maybe 4-1.
I gave Ant-Man about a 7 as well.
Yeah, it's fine. I think its main exciting purpose about it was now I know I have a little more setup for Endgame that's actually in the movie and not just a trailer that I've watched, and so it gets me more pumped for the next. Here's the thing. I'm right off the bat though. Marvel has gotten me so they are so good at getting you excited for the next one every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I go into one of these Marvel movies, I'm like, I hope they connect it to this, and I'm wondering how this is going to connect to this. Where I'm not just but any of the movies I see outside of I'm not going into Afghan Cycles, the documentary,
right?
Or One Day, a Hungarian movie about a white mother dealing with her children. With how's this going to connect to the Hungarian housewife cinematic universe? No, I'm just watching it as its own thing, which is maybe a detriment to Marvel. Also, it's because it's so possibly so interconnected that if it's not, I'm disappointed by that when it doesn't really. Anyway, that's a whole other topic that we could talk about also at some point. But that's probably the most exciting part about this movie for me was cool. I got to see a little bit more about what was happening in this universe.
Well, to me, the Universal thing is really, really interesting because to me, the knowledge that her power comes from the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone. Which stone is
yes,
the Tesseract?
It is the Space Stone because that's how they I remember that because that's how they tell Thor and Loki get back to Asgard at the end of Avengers is by using the Tesseract.
Tesseract.
It's the Space Stone. They move between different spaces with it.
So that her power comes from the Space Stone. How is that going to interact with the Gauntlet? With the Infinity Gauntlet, how's that going to work? And Marvel has done this a lot with a lot of their characters, and it's starting to grate on me. Most people are much more forgiving than I have been about this, but they're MacGuffining a lot of the powers a lot. So the Gauntlet's a MacGuffin.
Yes, I'm much more. I'm actually appreciative of that more than you are.
Yes,
not just I deal with it. I actually kind of like how they've done that.
But the Infinity Gauntlet, Scarlet Witch, and
pretty much everybody.
And now Captain Marvel.
Or Tony Stark always has a thing that's good for the situation.
Right.
Oh. Let's get the Hulkbuster out because the Hulk has gone on a rampage. Now, it makes sense that you would have built that because he's Tony Stark and because he's witnessed.
To me, that's the Batman line of logic.
Exactly, but it's still a MacGuffin thing where it's I have the thing to deal with this, or my power can deal with this because it needs to.
Right.
What I appreciate about how Marvel has done it is that it's still the idea of it's what needs to happen so it can. But when you set it up over 10 years, when you've known about like the Tesseract for 10 years now, you're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
I know that this is a powerful thing, so it can make her a powerful person.
I loved that
It's
callback.
still acceptable. Like, it's still like a MacGuffin because it's not fully explained. It's just like there, and it's also like it's just a
Tesseract Empower.
Yes, but when you've known about something for so long, it makes more sense.
Yes, I agree.
It's easier to accept.
I'm willing to accept, 100% willing to accept that has given her power in some way.
Even though it's not even explained that can be a thing.
Right.
Nobody's ever said, well, if somebody were to experience an explosion, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. To me, the only part about it that was a little confusing is sometimes she zaps things and they blow up. Sometimes she zaps things and they charge up. Sometimes she zaps things and it hurts a little bit.
I would chalk that up to she gets to decide how that power, like she can choose how to. She says one line where it's a photon blast. That is essentially the same thing as this is a Tesseract.
Plasma
I don't know
blast.
what that is.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
They're all
yeah.
But what I did appreciate about this a lot is they actually gradually gave her powers. Like, as the movie progressed, she got more and more powerful. And
until a certain moment. Yeah. Oh, let's also point out, this is going to be a spoiler.
Yes, we are going to spoil the crap out of this.
We already kind of have a little bit because the Tesseract, and that's kind of a reveal.
Right.
But yes, this is a spoiler. You know what I'm going to do is I'll put in a little tag before the thing because I realize people don't like that. I wouldn't have appreciated that either if I had learned about. Anyway, so we'll do that. It's not a big deal. I'm going to tell you what my main problem with the movie was.
Okay. Well, hang on.
Oh.
With the quality of the movie?
The movie itself.
Go ahead. Because I have problems with the movie that are less about the movie and more about...
Oh, no, I understand.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Brie Larson's performance.
Really?
I thought she was boring the whole time.
Man,
but also her personality switched a lot. At some points she was like confused and I don't know what to do, and at other points she was just like quippy. Like a lot of times she just felt like she was there to say the lines. Other times I
see, I don't disagree with you. I chalk that up to writing and or editing and or direction. I think the character itself, Brie Larson, killed it. I thought Brie Larson did a great job.
I thought it was fine.
But to me, it was like the episode 1 syndrome. You get phenomenal actors like Liam Neeson or Samuel Jackson in there.
Right, yeah,
but
and what they're given is not great.
Yeah, you write them boring, samey lines. I felt like this movie went in with the, how much can we make her like Peter Quill? Or how much can we make her like Tony Stark?
Yes.
How can we make her snarky and clever? What about her personality? She doesn't need her personality is snarky
and clever can be a personality, but yeah, we've already seen that. It would have been great if it was somebody who was less like that. Not even more serious or like just somebody who was not there. I've watched a video on YouTube somewhere. I think it was Jenny Nicholson who was talking about how like when she saw Doctor Strange, I think it was. She was like, "Oh, we've seen Doctor Strange already. He just had Iron Man powers."
Yes.
Or he was just Peter Quill. All three of them are essentially the same snarky, quippy, funny guy. And I would have liked it if Brie Larson or if Carol Danvers or Veers was more differenter.
See, but I still think there's a writing. Doctor Strange was, I would say he's middling in this, but what they did really well with Peter Quill is, and Chris Pratt helps this a lot, as well as the writing helps a lot. He is quippy and all that because of insecurities. He's actually an insecure guy.
Well, sure.
He's really whereas the quippiness and snarkiness on Tony Stark is entirely different. He's not insecure. He's very confident, but his confidence and intelligence is something that he puts the weight on himself. And he expects more of himself.
Here's what I'll say why I think it's a Brie Larson problem.
Okay.
Is because with all those characters, there you can see the personality of the actor through the character. When you're Tony Stark, obviously a lot of it's because of Tony Stark, but Robert Downey Jr. is a quippy, sarcastic dude.
Right.
And he's basically become Tony Stark, but Tony Stark was him. Like, Chris Pratt is a funny, sarcastic guy. Really good comedic timing and whatnot. And Peter Quill is also that. I mean, there's also a little Peter Quill that's not like Doctor Strange. At least I think we've seen funny Benedict Cumberbatch in like Sherlock, where he's not necessarily like funny over the top guy, but he's got like still got good comedic timing, or at least has like the ability to put this personality to him.
Right.
Where he, he's usually like uptight British man.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange is essentially the uptight British man of the I mean,
American British man.
He's American. Yeah. Well, I'm going to say he's the quintessential uptight British man of the Avengers. He's an he's an American character, sure, but he's still like smug and above you.
What
and
tropes we would give an uptight British character?
Whereas
to Doctor Strange,
Brie Larson is not a comedic actor.
No,
she is a dramatic actor to the core. From what we've seen, I can't say she's not good at comedy, but I mean the big movie that gave her she was in a comedy movie called
Scott Pilgrim,
but she wasn't a character making jokes the whole time.
Right.
She was a funny character. There's a difference there. But she was also in Room, a very dramatic movie that was not funny at all. And it just seems as though this was a weird casting choice because it's not a character. So I think they could have either changed the character to be a little more serious, be a little more down to earth, dramatic about her past and what she's into, what's happening to her right now, to fit Brie Larson's acting capability a little better, or acting performances. I don't want to say capability, but what she's done before.
Right.
Or get somebody who's supposed to be a little quippy, a little funnier as an actress. And so they didn't seem to mesh.
And I agree with that. I think for what she was given, she did a great job. But they didn't write her much to do with.
That too. Everybody else around her was more interesting.
Almost.
I thought Nick Fury in this was awesome.
He was great.
He was hilarious.
Yeah, and Sam Jackson killed it.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching Pulp Fiction for a little while when they're driving around in the car. Him and Coulson are driving around. Yeah. And I just felt like I was watching the scene in Pulp Fiction where they.
My favorite part was parts where anytime he had to run because they had to make him look super young, but he's actually 95 years old. Right. And so he's doing his little old man jog in this young man body.
Well, he's also been riding a desk, but yeah.
I
mean, he's also not supposed to be super young. I placed him at in his late 30s, maybe early 40s.
I can run. I'm in my mid 30s.
No, I understand that, but anyway,
no, I get what you're saying.
Not. He's not a 19-year-old kid.
No, yeah.
But anyway, Agent Coulson, he was in there briefly. He was fun. Even
great.
the villain guy, who's I don't know if you noticed this, was named Talos.
Right.
Who's one of the 9 in the 9 gods in Elder Scrolls.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Talos worship is outlawed.
That's
so
right.
They call it the 8 in Skyrim. That brought me out of it for a second. But so I liked him. He was funny, but also I liked his dramatic arc. He was the most interesting character. He had the dramatic arc. So did Nick Fury. Nick Fury had an arc where this changed what he thought of the universe, and at the end, he was a different person. Not as much as the villain, not the quote unquote villain.
Quote unquote villain. Yeah.
The scroll.
Spoiler alert. Here's a big
This
twist.
is a big deal plot wise.
Yes.
We've already spoiled alert things, but yes, the Skrulls turn out to not be the bad guys.
Right. The Kree are the villains.
The Kree are the bad guys, which we kind of already know because of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Because there's the Ronan the Accuser.
The Accuser, he's in it. Anyway, and we've also seen Jamon Hounson, however you say that. He was
as a villain
Guardians.
in the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah.
But yeah, they're not the villain. But his main, the main Skrull commander guy, he has an arc, a dramatic arc. He changes. But Brie Larson doesn't.
No, she does not.
She is the same character at the beginning and the end and just has more power.
I wanted her to have a moment where she looks at her friend, Rambeau is I remember
Rambeau, yeah.
Maria Rambeau.
Yeah.
Where she looks at Rambeau and her memory floods back and tears come in her eyes. And she says, I remember.
Yes.
And she gives her this big hug. And it's this big, beautiful moment of her becoming Carol Danvers again. She knows who she is now, and her friend is there to help usher back into that. They had that opportunity right there, and Brie Larson could have done that. Absolutely,
yes,
could have done
that would have been a great moment.
That would have been great.
You see brief flashes throughout the movie of past things.
Yes.
Especially toward the beginning when she's with the Skrulls. But then toward the end, there was a little montage of her standing up, as in a metaphor of I'm not going to get back. I could do this all day,
right.
Captain America style. But it would have been great to see minute and a half scenes where she's remembering things that happened to her throughout her life as she's exploring places she's been on Earth that she doesn't remember. So she's in her hometown for some reason and sees the go-kart track. She's at, then gets to the military and is getting quote unquote pushed around or just
mocked
by male, Air Force members
right.
who are, saying stupid things. She's at that bar where they're doing karaoke. And then to just have those and her like learning more things. But then the real emotional moment happens where she has, like you said, that flooding, like, oh, right. Somebody who had an actual emotional like connection with rather than just events she was part of. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, we see that quick montage of her standing up after crashing, after doing all these things. Like, if we had seen those earlier, in a more of them in more disparate ways, like scattered throughout the movie and then put together, and then she stands up one more time and says, "I'm going to end this war." I wish he would have delivered that line a little better, also, but like it would have had a much better impact. I would have appreciated a more straightforward delivery of the exposition, like as far as the timeline goes.
And I understand why they tried to do that in the movie. If you guys don't know, if you haven't seen it, you shouldn't be listening to this yet. But if you haven't seen it, they almost the very beginning of the movie, they give you just flashes of her past.
Yes.
And it's like her playing baseball, her riding go-karts, her trying to do rope climb in the military.
Right.
And they have these like dramatic moments of her falling over and getting scolded at by men and then getting back up.
Right.
And I really like your thought process of like having her doing the falling and all of those, because that's a weak moment for Captain Marvel, for Veers' character.
Yeah.
This is when she's captured, her mind is being probed, and so in these memories they have her falling down or hitting or crashing every one, but then it's not till the end when she gets her memories back where they have her getting back up at the end of every one.
I'm more than just my failures.
Yeah, like
I am not, I'm not being held back anymore. Yeah. Crushes the thing on her ear and freaking wrecks everybody.
Yes,
because that would have been such a more impact when she's flying through space and destroying spaceships by punching them. Awesome,
yeah,
but not emotionally impactful.
Nope. Other than punch.
Yes, she's winning.
Yeah,
it would have been much more like much better if she had just I have this power now, not just a literal power. I have like I can get back up after you need to have that every movie has it, and this one did too,
right?
But it's the lowest point in the dramatic arc, in the arc of the story where everything seems lost.
Right.
It's in the Matrix. It's when Neo is shot by Agent Smith,
mm-hmm.
and then it's like, oh no. And then things come back and he's powerful man and wins the universe. You need it. I think it could have been conveyed a little better in how they kind of doled out the information that we got. So yeah, I think it was a pretty flat movie to me. I didn't laugh at all. I didn't think I didn't think anything was super funny in it.
But it was all the things you're supposed to laugh at.
Except for the flirkin, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
I hate cats, but
okay.
It seemed like just a dumb plot piece that was there for funsies. Yeah, I didn't like the cat.
It was a way to explain, it was also
why he had the Tesseract.
Kind of. What I hated was the Avenger moment when Nick Fury sees a picture of her on her plane and she's called Carol the Avenger.
Yeah, is she the first Avenger now? Is it
that
not
didn't
Captain
even
America?
It didn't make sense. She didn't avenge anything.
Well, Avenger is her.
It's her call sign.
Yeah, they all have
I understand.
No,
I understand. But why was that her call sign? What if we learned about that?
Yes.
Yeah. What if instead it was, here's a picture. I'll call it the Avengers Initiative instead.
You know what? Okay, so actually this is a great point, and this really helps round out why I was so frustrated with the character.
Yes.
Is we learned so much about Veers.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of, and then at the end they tell you that was all a lie.
Oh, by the way.
But you know what they never tell you? Who Carol Danvers is.
Yes, I would have really enjoyed more of learning who the human is.
Yeah. You have no idea who Carol Danvers is, why the fact that her life as Veers was a lie is important.
Yeah.
Figuring out who she really, like, when they tell you it's a lie, you're like, oh, now she's... Oh, that Air Force lady?
Here's a big... we need to get into like kind of the surrounding stuff, but here's, I think, a final word for me about it is for what kind of tells you what I think about it is that in Endgame, to me, she's still a plot device.
Yeah.
She's still how they beat Thanos. I don't know how they're going to do it, but she's the one that she's going to defeat Thanos or be very instrumental in how they... Instead of, I'm really excited to see Captain America and Tony Stark reconcile. We haven't seen that yet. Mm-hmm. And sure, they're going to be part of the thing. One of them or two of them one or both are going to die. That's going to wreck me. But I'm really excited to see them as characters come back together and like apologize and grow, and like more so than how are they going to beat Purple Man?
Right.
For Carol Danvers, how's she going to beat?
She's going to beat Purple Man. Yeah, absolutely.
So that might be just kind of the idea.
So that's our actual movie review. I'm more forgiving of the movie just because it was exciting. It was intense.
Yeah.
And I laughed.
I think we both recommend seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was bland and samey. And again, forgettable is a good word for me. It's another Marvel movie.
It's number 22 or 21 of currently 23.
But now we do want to address kind of the elephant in the room here, and that's the sort of politics that have been surrounding this.
Yes.
Marvel was not shy at all about saying, here is our most powerful character. She is a woman.
Yes. They leaned into, hey, this is a woman. Come watch it because women power.
Right. Exactly that. And Brie Larson began leaning into that to her detriment.
Well, okay. Brie Larson has had views like she's... Okay. We can't say that it's detrimental that she has feminist views. That's fine.
No.
That's perfectly fine.
The way she tried to speak about them was an issue.
Yes, it was misguided a lot of times.
Yes.
But yeah, they leaned into it, which personally, I'm perfectly fine with that.
It was ham-handed to me.
Yes, that was the problem.
It was very ham-handed, and that took away from the movie. It took me out of the immersion.
Yes.
I am a feminist. I think it's great. I can tell you all the ways and all the reasons I loved Wonder Woman for its feminist voice.
I think Wonder Woman did a better job.
I think Wonder Woman, absolutely, significantly better job, because Diana was a full-fledged, rounded character.
Yes, and that's where these two things intersect.
Absolutely. And Diana came into the world with this naivete and innocence, but also hope. And you got to see her hope kind of smashed for a moment.
Yes.
But she still stood up and kept fighting and won at the end. The real story arc for Diana wasn't beat Hades.
Beat bad guy.
Or beat Ares, which she did in the end. She had to beat Ares. She had to beat up Lupin. Because that's the movie. You got to beat the bad guy in the end. Yes.
It wasn't the point of the movie.
The point of the movie was when she killed the general of the German army and nothing happened. And she looked out on the battlefield and said, nothing's changed. This is just man. Right. And that's her kind of low point. That's like her growth moment of her realizing, I can still save these people. I can still care about them, even though they just hate each other. Like they're just bad sometimes.
Right.
And it's this awesome character arc that she has. And by the way, she's a woman through all of it. She kicks the tail. She's also nurturing and caring. She's incredible. She's wonderful. Brie Larson's character in this was, if you had replaced her with a man, nothing would be different.
It really would have been the same thing.
Yes.
Like Captain America was also looked down upon for being who he was in the military. People made fun of him. He was, and then he got, and then he became who he was. Yeah. So I agree. Which it seemed as though they were trading, look how powerful she is, literally like how much violence she can deal out, with look what an empowered person she is.
Yes.
There's a difference between powerful and empowered. And yeah, it seems like they got that a little wrong. They just kind of confused the two ideas, the two concepts.
Yeah, and an opportunity that they had that they didn't take, which would have been a little bit too similar to Wonder Woman. I can see why, but was Diana came into the world of man, they call it in the movie.
Right.
And there was so much that was just like, women don't do that. Why? And you got to look at it from this outsider's perspective, and you got to ask yourself, no, that's a good question. Why?
Yeah.
Why do we have that?
Yeah.
This didn't have any of that. You never questioned feminism or a patriarchy or anything like that.
Here's where, exactly. None of those issues. Here's where I think Marvel always plays it safe.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. The idea of women being empowered is a safe idea. People don't like it, but those people are stupid. Yeah. Like some people don't like it. I understand that because they don't understand feminism, or they're misogynists. Like they either don't understand or they're actively against it. Either way. But I really wish, so there is currently, it's being revealed. I mean, it's the Me Too movement, but specifically within the military, it is rampant.
Yes.
Sexual abuse and assault is rampant in the military against women. Like it is pervasive. It is at least as bad as non-military examples. or worse.
Yes.
She is a female Air Force member. Now, here's where I'm saying I didn't expect it to happen because Marvel plays it safe, and this would be a very hard topic to talk about in a Marvel safe way, where it's like somebody is being sexually assaulted. But this would have been a very specific, concrete thing that they could have portrayed in the movie to show that she is that would be great for the arc of the character, to remember these experiences she's had, and then she got up again and fought back in whatever way that was. But also in the real world, this could be something that Marvel could have shown a light on. Hey, we're not just come see this because she's a girl. Because how it came off after seeing the movie was they're using social justice as a way for people to watch a summer block. It's not summer, but a blockbuster movie. Yeah. Rather than, here's our movie, let's do something better with it.
I mean,
which
the movie
still would have brought in all the money that they brought in anyway. But what if they started a conversation, a bigger conversation? What if Brie Larson, instead of talking about how 71% of film critics are 40-year-old white dudes, or whatever specific thing she said, hey, this is a real issue. I spent time, because she did spend time with military, like active military, in preparing for the role. I spent time with them. We had these conversations. This is an issue. We need to shine a light upon this.
Yeah.
That would have been, I'm not saying you can't talk about just general female empowerment. That's great. But I would have loved to see something very, quote unquote, controversial as sexual assault in the military brought up in this movie. And at the same time, it would have been very useful for her character to give you a very relatable concept of sexual assault to empower her against enemies or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I think that this movie was supposed to take place in 1995. Mm-hmm. If it had released in 1995, it would be no more socially progressive than it is today.
Yeah.
Like it didn't make any leaps and bounds, didn't have any great statement to make. The things that it did do, like my wife pointed this out, and she's like, my wife is actually much more forgiving even than I am. She liked the movie a lot. She's like, but what really removed me is it was clear that every single song that was played was a female lead singer.
Yep. And also they didn't really tie into like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It was all like woman led, and that was clearly their agenda. And then for me, the one that really removed me was No Doubt's I'm Just a Girl during the big fight at the end.
Yep.
And it's like, you can play so many different songs that would have been great. You could even pick songs led by women to be that part, but
Come As You Are was played during when she's fighting against the Supreme Intelligent. Not really sure why.
Yeah, it's just because it's 95, I guess.
We've already established the timeline. You don't have to do that anymore.
She landed in a blockbuster.
That was very obvious. And then there was a Radio Shack pointed out. Like, we get it, okay? We get it. The timeline also, like, as far as like the actual plot of the movie, it mattered for the universe, the MCU, sure. But for the plot of the movie it didn't have to be any.
But I think it was mostly just for the MCU.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Here's what, like, Guardians of the Galaxy had a great soundtrack. A lot of the songs were just popular pop songs from that time, but they were in the movie themselves. They had an emotional connection to the character because these were the songs that his mother, who died of cancer when he was young, when he was still living on Earth, gave to him. And so he treasured this possession. And then the songs also tied in thematically and at least tonally. Right. And so it used that soundtrack where it was fun and poppy, but also had an impact on the movie. Whereas this reminded me of like Suicide Squad level of just dumb pop song, not dumb pop songs, but just dumb use of pop songs and obvious use. And so that was frustrating.
Yeah, and then there were so many other things like the way that she was treated and like was really on the nose. The guy was trying to, come on, smile for me, baby.
Yeah, she was told to smile. Her dad said, you shouldn't be driving a go-kart.
Right. You know why it's called a cockpit, right?
Right. You know. Which, like, that one, that's not an obvious, like, smile for me kind of thing. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but
to me, it's just direct. It's like, direct. These are all really direct things.
Which would have been fine, I think, again, if they had portrayed that a little better.
Agreed.
Instead of just brief flashes of here's how men were terrible.
Yes.
Which that also, I don't want to say that. I don't think this movie came off as men are terrible and women are the best.
No.
They definitely avoided that, just like Wonder Woman did that also. I'd have been fine with if they were even on a little more on the side of men are terrible, because men are terrible a lot of times. But yeah, that was an upside where it wasn't just, hey, look at women are better than everybody. But
it was definitely ham-handedly shouting female empowerment, though.
Yes.
And to the point that, I mean, that's, again, I have no problem with that message, but when it removes you from the fiction,
yes,
when it takes you out of what's going on, that's a problem.
It was a detriment to the movie.
Yes, it was. It's a great message that became a detriment to the quality of the movie.
Whereas Wonder Woman is what we're comparing it to, because it's a very similar concept. The first woman movie in the universe, in that particular universe, and then it also like references female thing, like just Wonder Woman had the same message at its core, ish, but portrayed it in a way where you cared.
Yes.
More about the person.
Yes.
Yeah. And when Wonder Woman came out, my main concept, or main like reason why I liked it, or what I said about it on Facebook or something, was, hey, good job with Wonder Woman. You clearly understand that the better way to make a feminist piece of art, or a feminist movie, is to make a great movie about a woman rather than Ghostbusters. This is a terrible movie, but it's about women, so if you don't like it, you're a misogynist. Like, that's not just art first, message entwined in a satisfying way.
Right. And just one last thought before we tie up here. I think its own hype hurt it. I think that how much Marvel hyped it up to be this, like, this is our female lead, this is our, our woman empowerment movie, woman empowerment character, that really hurt it. I think the expectations people had going in, whether they expected it to be terrible and they were already mad at it and already hated it, and that rating came out, it's been like review bombed essentially in a lot of different ways, and it sucks. Or on the flip side, they expected her to be a savior, a messiah in some ways, and she
just
ended
came
up
off
being
as
bland and samey. Whereas if they would, again, like, DC didn't try and tout Wonder Woman as the female messiah.
Oh, they did a little bit,
but not near to the extent that Marvel
a lot of
did,
this
though.
Also, we have to say, is probably created by the fans.
Yes.
By the culture around it, more than what Marvel says. Marvel can say, hey, our first female whatever. Like, that's true, and they can do that, but there is a cultural expectation around it that's created. It's not just Marvel's saying she's the savior of the universe.
Yep.
So it's a big topic, and I'd love to continue talking, but
we're out of time.
We should wrap it up here, because I could talk for hours.
Yes.
And only I want to hear that.
So my final thought on the movie is that it's worth seeing. It's a lot of fun. It's enjoyable. If you want to wait until it comes out on video, that's fine too. There wasn't anything that I think is going to make it especially cool to see it in theaters.
Yeah.
There's some spectacle to it, but nothing exceptional.
I'm not like the end game hasn't changed in my mind because of this movie.
Right.
There's some little details that are like, oh, okay, interesting. That's where he got the Tesseract, or that's where the Tesseract has been. Whatever. Who cares, though? Like, that's not super important.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, it's a good enough movie.
It's
I
fine.
Enjoyed it. It's fine.
See it or don't.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Hey, let us know what you think about Captain Marvel as a standalone movie. Let us know your opinion about the movie itself. And then, second of all, let us know about what you think about the politics behind it and what it was trying to say, what message it was trying to send. Again, if you really enjoyed this, sharing, liking, commenting, all of the stuff really, really helps us out and getting the word out there. Tell a friend about this and let them listen to it as well. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time. Remember, save games, save lives.
Bye.